right. All right, here we are, everybody. Jai Baba. Let's get started with our prayer session. And then we have Tony, who is joining us again to share his wonderful stories with everyone. So Sahana, would you like to start us off with your prayer? And then we can...
I say the repentance prayer.
Okay, so that's fine. Who, Srinidhi, would you like to start with the Parvartikar prayer?
Sure.
Okay, go ahead.
O Parvartikar, the preserver and protector of all, you are without beginning and without end, non-dual, beyond comparison, and none can measure you. You are without color, without expression, without form, and without attributes. You are unlimited and unfathomable, beyond imagination and conception, eternal and imperishable. You are invisible, and none can see you but with eyes divine. You always were, you always are, and you always will be. You are everywhere, and you are in everything. You're also beyond everywhere and beyond everything. You are in the firmament and in the depths. You're manifest and unmanifest on all planes and beyond all planes. You're in the three worlds and beyond the three worlds. You're imperceptible and independent. You are the creator of lords, knower of all minds and hearts. You're omnipotent and omnipresent. Your knowledge infinite, power infinite, and bliss infinite. You're the ocean of knowledge, all-knowing, infinitely knowing, the knower of the past, present, and future. Your knowledge itself. You're all merciful and eternally benevolent. You're souls of souls, one with infinite attributes. You're trinity of truth and knowledge and bliss. You're the source of truth and the ocean of love. You're the ancient one, the highest of the high. You're Prabhu and Parameshwar. You're beyond God and beyond God also. You're Brahma, Allah, Ilahi, Yazdan, our Mazda, and God the Beloved. You're named Izzat, the only one worthy of worship.
Thank you. All right, Sahana, go ahead.
Okay. We repent, O God, most merciful, for all our sins, for every thought.
Sahana, slow it down and say it slowly, okay?
Okay.
We're not in a rush.
We repent, O God, most merciful, for all our sins, for every thought that was false or unjust or unclean, for every word spoken that ought not to have been spoken, and for every deed done that ought not to have been done. We repent for every deed and word and thought inspired by selfishness, and for every deed and word and thought inspired by hatred. We repent most especially for every lustful thought and for every lustful action, for every lie, for all hypocrisy, for every promise given but not fulfilled, and all slander and backbiting. Most especially also we repent for every action that has brought ruin to others, for every word and deed that has given others pain, and for every wish that pain should befall others. In your unbounded mercy, we ask you to forgive us, O God, for all these sins committed by us, to forgive us for constant failure to think and speak and act according to your will.
Thank you. Who would like, Shireen and Meher, would you like to do the Beloved God prayer?
Sure. Yeah. Beloved God, help us all to love you more and more, and more and more, and still yet more, till we become worthy of union with you. And help us all to fast the Baba's Dham until the very end of Dharma Baba Ki Jai.
Thank you. Awesome, guys. All right. So here we are back again. For those of you who joined later, Jai Baba. Welcome back to the Tween Sahavas, and Tony is back here with us this week to share more, stories and whatever else, and we can have some discussions, etc. So, Tony, did you have anything in particular in mind to start off with, or yeah?
Well, you'd mentioned other Baba stories and stories relating to the other mandali.
Yeah,
and I made some notes on those. And I also thought of something, I don't think this is too heavy. I mentioned in my own story that my father died when I was 9. And it was not just a shock, it led me to question, what is life and what's death? What does it mean when someone dies? What does it mean that when you're alive, and where did they go? What happens? And it colored my childhood until I had that experience that I shared. And in the process of coming to Baba, I learned about reincarnation, and it took a little bit of the meaninglessness out of death. But still, there was a lot unanswered. And when I came to Baba, I started reading one of his books, The Advancing Stream of Life, had so much to say about death and dying, and it's part of the advancing flow of life, and there's no real loss. But Baba still found ways over the years to give me reassurances when I didn't think I needed them anymore. So one of these is when Harry Kenmore died. He had gotten ill fairly suddenly, and it was cancer that spread far. And even though in later pictures I saw how thin he had become and gaunt and pale, when I was there until his very last talk, I didn't see it because his energy for Baba was so strong that there was nothing but power coming through him. But I did see it then that day, and I realized he was dying. And when he died, I went to the funeral parlor, and I walked in, and there was no one else there at the time. And I was astonished that someone who was so larger than life and so bold and so strong could be just lying there in a coffin. And even though I knew about death not being real, I just stood there, and while I'm looking at him, I'm taking Baba's name. I may have been silently also saying the prayers. Kenmore, when he talked to someone, sometimes he would snort. He'd lean in and look at you, even though he was blind, and he'd go. Well, there I am looking at him in the coffin, and he's laying there, and I see, and I went, what? And this is not spooky or scary, and I'll explain why it was the opposite. But while I'm looking at him, he lifted up, he looked at me right in the eye, went like that, and laid down again. Now, if anyone else was in the room, I'm sure they wouldn't have seen that. I think that was just for me, but there was no one else in the room. And the message that I got was, you think I'm dead just because my body is here? I'm not dead. Did you not learn anything from all the things I taught you? And it was a powerful reassurance. Years later, when Bernice Ivory, who was a close lover of Baba's, died, and she was like a second mother to me. I loved her so much. Wonderful woman. And at one point in my life, when I had first gotten married to my daughter's mother, she came over to me at the meeting, and a Baba meeting, and said, aren't you two going to have any children? And I said, oh, we could, but when, not yet. And I said, but she said, no, you should have. I said, well, my wife thinks we should wait until we have enough money. And she said, you leave that to Baba. And it was clear Baba was speaking through Bernice and urging. So I went home and I told my wife about this. And wouldn't you know it, next thing you know, she was pregnant, and 9 months later, my daughter was born. And so years pass, and I'm at Bernice's funeral, and there were hundreds of people, and it was a very happy atmosphere because she was so loved. And I was with my wife, and I was sharing that story with someone, and I glanced over at the coffin, and Bernice was smiling. And I said, Zeke, look over at the coffin. Do you see anything? She said, Bernice is smiling. It was, again, for me, Baba reassuring me that even though when someone's dead, yes, there's a loss, there's a passing, there's a transition, but that soul is never really gone. It's just not in that form anymore. So I did want to share that. And one other thing about Kenmore that I didn't mention that was so important that he taught was there are to be, the way he put it was, there are to be no third parties interposed in your relationship with Meher Baba. That's the beauty of this relationship. Unlike where you have priests between you and God, where you have teachers who think they can, not teachers are good, but where you have people who put themselves between you and God instead of going inside to ask Baba what he wants for you. that this time in this Advent, he'd open the door for us to contact him directly in our hearts. Okay, so that was like the leftover from last week.
So before we move forward, I want to open this up to the guys and ask them if they have any questions for you. Does anyone have any questions for Tony? Sahana, go ahead.
Wait, Mom, can I ask them about the zodiac sign thingy?
Go ahead. It's your question.
So my mom told me, you know a lot about zodiac signs. So,
I said he knows about astrology.
Oh, okay. Sorry about that.
Similar. Go ahead, though.
Could you guess my sign if I tell you clues? Like,
when I first got, the reason I got into astrology as a kid was, well, not a kid, I was like 15, I guess, 14. And I was teaching a friend how to play the guitar, and he was teaching me what he knew about astrology. And I just had an open mind about it, but I was skeptical. I won't tell the whole story, but suddenly he read something in my chart that was too exact and too accurate. It was about my father dying when my brother was just 3 years old. And he saw that in the chart. He read it from a book. He didn't make it up. He just read. So I studied a lot. And by the time I was in college, I was very, very good. And I would tell everybody their sign and the time they were born within 2 hours, because your rising sign changes every 2 hours. And it was lots of fun. But at some point, I just stopped doing that. And it was like a parlor trick. It was like a little game. But now I wouldn't try to guess someone's sign. Sometimes you can't miss it because it's really obvious when you know them. But it's better to help understand how people, what difficulties they might be going through and how they might look at them differently. So no, I can't guess. But you want me to just take a wild stab?
Yeah, just like that. And
all right. Do you think I can do it?
Yeah.
Oh boy. Now I'm on the spot. I'm probably going to be wrong. I'll say, just because you challenged me with this, that maybe Scorpio?
No, I'm Aquarius.
Aquarius, like my daughter. Ah. Yes, I can see that, but I don't do that anymore. I do charts. I read charts and I use it when I can. It's helpful sometimes, but not for tricks or for guidance. The guidance always comes from Baba.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Anybody else have any questions? Okay, Tony, you got the floor.
All right. Does everyone know about the Dooney? The Dooney fire? So there's a lot to say about the Dooney, but the short version is that Baba set this up to be lit the 12th of every month in Mehrabad. But of course, you can throw things in the Dooney even if you're not there. I've learned that, because Kenmore said everything happens in your imagination, and you can imagine the Dooney and throw in something. And I don't even think it has to be on the 12th. So one time I was at work and I was a very heavy smoker, which is really bad, but it meant a lot to me. I was very addicted, and I was working at the UN, and I was in one of the smoking rooms, but I knew I needed to quit, and I couldn't quit. So I said to Baba, okay, I closed my eyes. I imagined the pack of the brand of cigarettes that I smoked, and I imagined the Dooney fire, and I threw it in the Dooney. When I got to work the next day, they had declared my room a non-smoking room. And it was the most, I had the best desk in the office. There were 4 different rooms and mine overlooked the East River and it was right by the window and I had space and privacy. So every time I wanted to smoke, which was a lot, I had to leave my desk, go into some other room. I was going to quit the UN. I was so mad about it. But when I checked in, Baba said, no, don't quit. And
so,
eventually,
Tony, quick question on the Dhuni, right? Because I want to kind of make this a little, give more clarity to it.
yes.
So the idea.
Oh, I didn't say that. I'm so sorry. Yes, please do.
Yeah. So the idea when you do put something in the Dhuni is to kind of give it to Baba, right? So you said smoking. And I know like recently we had Sankranti or, Makar Sankranti, which is the winter solstice, I believe. Amma, is that right? Winter, right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So we have one day that's called Bhogi, where you light the fire. It's essentially like, actually it fell on Dhuni Day, the 12th. Mm-hmm. So, we as practice kind of like to write something and then give it to Baba. But I almost feel like the moment you do that, like it kind of accentuates and then you actually realize that, oh, okay, this is not so easy to give up, right? So could you talk a little bit about, that, the Dhuni itself, and then maybe we can go around and share what, the kids would like to give
mm-hmm.
or mm-hmm. did?
Well, the Dhuni, I left that. I guess I'm a little, I missed it today. Anyway, I meant to tell you, yes, the idea is that you would take some quality that you were willing to give up, usually a quality that you were willing to give up, something that impeded your life, your relationship with Baba, and you embody it. You imagine it embodied in this little piece of wood, and you dip the wood in ghee, oil, and throw it into the fire. And Baba said that it's not the same as just giving it to Baba. He said he gave the Dhuni its own power, like the power of the 5th plane of consciousness. It could burn up this quality. So if you're willing to throw it in, you have to be really serious about it, because it will happen. Something will happen. And so I was always afraid. I went to India, I guess 8 times during my first decade with Baba, and then maybe another 10 times after that. But I was always afraid to throw something in the Dhuni. So I would pick up the chip, and my prayer, instead of embodying the quality I was going to give up, was, Baba, whatever you choose. And I said, Avatar Mayor Baba Ki Jai, and threw it in. And I was never quite sure what it was Baba threw in. Because you see, I had heard, one of the stories I had heard was about a fellow who was in India, a Westerner, who was very cavalier, like, taking it very lightly. And he decided he was going to be very spiritual, and he threw in his attachment to material things. And when he got back home to the West, he learned that his house had burned down. So I was never quite so sure I was willing to give up something if it was going to be taken that dramaticwas But one day, I happened to be in India, and it was at Mehrabad, and it was Dhuni Day, and I was at Baba's Samadhi, and I came out of Baba's Samadhi ready to go down the hill. Dhuni was going to be lit in the next hour. And Baba's Mandali Mansari, who some of you may know of, who lived up on the hill, she was so wonderful. She walks over to me without a word, slaps 7 Dhuni chips into my hand, and walks away. And I instantly knew that Baba was saying, I want you to throw 7 things in the Dhuni. Now you figure out what they are and throw them in. And I couldn't miss that this was what Baba wanted. So I thought about it. Now, as of right now, I don't remember all 7. I've written this story elsewhere. But one of them, I was very averse to Baba work. I had been in that group that I mentioned that supposedly was doing work for Baba, but it was much more about people's egos. Our hearts were in the right place, but it got perverted, and it made me not want to have anything to do with anything called Baba work. And I realized there was real work to be done for Baba. And it was an obstacle that I was afraid to do it. So one of the things I put in one of the chips, I said, I throw in my aversion to Baba work. Now, before I went to India that year, my closest friend at the time, Gus DeGraff, was the president of Mayor Baba House in New York City. And he used to call me and we would chat because we were friends. And he would mention problems that he was dealing with on the board of directors. And I would give my opinion because you're a friend, you give your opinion. So one day he had come over to me and said, we're having elections and we need someone to run for third vice president. Would you be willing to? I said, I don't think so. He said, you won't have to do anything. Just come to a meeting once a month, give your opinion just like you do now when we talk. I said, okay. And it was fine. I didn't have to do anything. I came, I gave my opinion, I went home. It wasn't Baba work. But now in India, because of Mansari's 7 chips, I threw in my aversion to Baba work. When I got back to New York, my friend quit as president. The first vice president quit. Then the second vice president quit. And within 1 week, I was the president of Baba House. And so for a year, I was deeply, deeply involved with Baba work. And to my surprise, I discovered always felt a close relationship with Baba, close connection. But as president, as friend, beloved, as my true self, all of that. But as president of Baba House, suddenly there was this new dimension of Baba in my life as boss. Like whatever decisions I made on the Baba House board, I was answerable to Baba, and it got very complicated. And it was a wonderful experience in the end. But that was the Dooney, throwing in my aversion to Baba work. Another thing.
Sorry,
yes.
just quick on that. I don't know if the kids know exactly what Baba work entails. Maybe if you can give some examples, because I mean, you know, like what was the committee doing that what you were averse to, or in the sense like
I was averse to the idea of thinking that you can really do anything for Baba. Baba does everything, you see. And I had learned that very much from that group I was in, because they were like, we're doing this and we're doing that and we're doing this and we're doing, look at all the good things we're doing for that. I wouldn't feel that way, but I was just trying to be humble about it. But I realized I didn't want something like that, where it's my ego involved. But real Baba work, there's so many different kinds. Most doesn't require being part of any group, any committee, any organization. But you can be part of those things. There's the board of the Meher Center, Myrtle Beach, and they make sure that the center runs properly and that it's kept clean, and that when adjustments have to be made, like with COVID now, they make adjustments and they make sure that pilgrims have a clean place to stay, and they protect the atmosphere. So there are many good things. Mayor Baba House at that time, the board, being on the board doing Baba work meant organizing meetings. So every week there were meetings, and we put out a newsletter, and I even changed the newsletter a bit when I came in, and one of the board members didn't like the way I changed it. I'd made it too folksy or whatever. So there were challenges dealing with other people that Baba brings up. But we had guests come, guest speakers who had met Baba. We had music nights. We had nights when people could share their own experience. But you can do Baba work on your own if you're an artist. If you are in tune with Baba when you are making your art, then that art reaches out from Baba to whoever hears it or whoever sees it. And that's definitely a kind of Baba work that you do very personally. Or if you allow Baba to guide you in your life, you may find that you are helpful to some people without even realizing it. And that's also Baba work. So it doesn't have to be the thing that I was afraid of, I had good reason to be afraid of. Because there's no ego in Baba work. There is humbly going in and say, Baba, what would you have me do? What would you have? Where would you have me go? What would you have me say? And then trusting that Baba will lead you. Even in your work, when you get older and you pick a career, to ask Baba, what would you have me do? You know,
I think it even applies for them now, you know, because and maybe this is a good time to share if you guys want, right? Like, do you guys have any things to share? And maybe, you know, Tony can give some tips and tricks. What do you guys think? Do you do Baba work at your age? So I want to start with something. I took a training recently at work, and it was safety training, right? So I'm thinking, oh, it's going to be like fire extinguisher, all of this stuff. It was nothing like that. And it was a day long, almost 6 or 8 hour training, 7-hour training. And it was the most incredible thing. And the first question that was asked of us was, you know, to introduce ourselves. And then how many people we influence every day. And it just literally made me think. And I said, I don't know if I can count, because I feel like anybody I talk to, I'm influencing, you know. But it was such a philosophical thing with where I felt like throughout the whole training, I felt like Baba was talking, you know, about it was more philosophical than training. Of course, you know, you had to they taught you how to like deal with, okay, what's safe practices if you see something, how do you tell them it's safe or unsafe or whatever. But you know, it made me think about safety in general with everything that we do. You know, if we're walking with our cell phones in our hand and looking at it, you know, to all of that. And I was sharing that with the kids, but it really, really made me think. So you guys want to share something? Because I think you're right, Tony. Everything that we do is Baba work, right? Like whether you know, even if you're opening up your school book and studying. And I think, Shireen, remember we had talked about this at one point, when you have tests and stuff, like, what do you do, right? So Shireen, you want to share your exam experience? I know you just had a couple midterms and stuff. How did you feel? Do you think you were doing Baba work? Was Baba with you at that time?
I just felt like Baba was just doing it for me. Like the test, like when I was feeling that stressed, I just like left it to Baba, the results.
Yes. Yes.
Anybody else want to share? Go ahead, Shrinika.
I don't.
You want to share something?
You want to share anything?
No.
Oh, I thought I saw your hand up. But let me ask you, since you're on the spot, do you take Baba with you to school?
Do you?
I don't know.
I don't know.
Speak up. Sorry, it's hard to hear.
Do you take Baba with you to school?
Yeah.
Yeah? How does he help you?
How does he help you?
In math class. In the test, so I don't get a
F. Don't know. F. It's
F?
enough. Yeah, it's enough.
That's cool. That's awesome. What about you, Srinidhi, since you're right there? Do you feel like you guys do Baba work? I mean, you know, you're teenagers or tweens or getting there now. So you guys will be involved in doing a lot of things, right? For college applications and stuff. But I just want to take this moment and maybe Tony can give us some tips and tricks.
Well, whenever my parents ask me to play, like make the notes for Baba song, I do it. It takes me like the whole day, but yeah, I do it.
Oh, wow, you make your own notes for the Baba. She's really good. Tony, we have to share that flute thing. Maybe if we have time today, but she was amazing. It was Japo Tumhara Naam, right? That you did that day?
We did 3 songs. Well, 2, and then we're gonna record another one.
Oh, nice. All right.
I'd love to hear it. I'd love to hear it.
Yeah, awesome. You know, we're missing Ian here today, but he's really good with guitar. But yeah, thank you, Srinidhi. Anyone else wants to share? Meher? Soham, Sahana, Shireen?
Yeah. I think in tests, like, yeah, the same thing as Shireen. Like in tests, Baba's with me. I feel like Baba's doing the work.
So do you say, Baba, please do this for me, and I'll just put my hand on a piece of paper? No?
No. I just write, but I realized that Baba is doing it, even though I didn't say his name.
Trust.
That's awesome. I love to hear that. What about Soham, Sahana, you guys?
I don't really feel like I do any Baba work, to be completely honest.
Yeah, me too. I do the prayer. That's like all I do.
That's not really Baba work, though.
Of course it is.
Yeah, I
But
guess.
if you guys think about it, anything can be Baba work, you know, like, right, Tony? What do you think?
If you bring joy, for instance, Sahana, I imagine that you bring joy to a lot of people. That's Baba work. But it's not something, there is no Baba work if we think it's something we're doing. If we think it's something we're doing, it's not Baba work. It's us, it's our ego want to connect to something. But things that make people happy, that's Baba work. And Baba does that because he makes you happy in a way that makes other people happy. I have a little story. I was working someplace and I was going to have to go look for a new job. It turned out differently, but I was thinking, okay, it was my first contract at the UN for 3 months. It was coming to an end. They weren't going to say if they were keeping anyone on. And so I had to think in terms of looking for work. And I thought, I want to be looking for what you want me to do, Bob. So I got out of the UN. I'm going to stand up for this because let's see if it's going to be too weird. But I stood on the corner by the UN, and there was a comedian named Red Skelton on TV when I was a kid. And one of his characters, he would dress up as a clown, and it's not going to work. He would have big, big clown feet. Like, look, that as big as those shoes look right now. But they were red. And so I imagined myself, and he was called Clem Kadiddlehopper. And so standing outside on the corner of the UN at 42nd Street and First Avenue, I said, Baba, what do you want me to do with my life? I said, guide my feet, I'll follow them. I said, because Baba, I don't want to put so much effort into, if I'm writing a resume, describing what my talents are, let me be it in the direction that you want me to go. So I said, Baba, what do you want me to do with my life? Guide my feet, literally, and I'll follow them. And I just started walking. And when I got to the corner, I looked down at my feet and I went, well, and they went, ba-doo, ba-doo, doo, and my feet started walking that way. And when I got to another corner, I'd say, well, and ba-doo, ba-doo, doo, and I followed my feet. I had a lot of fun. It was like playing, but I was seriously, I put Baba on the spot. Follow my feet. I'll guide my feet. I'll follow them. And after about half an hour, they stopped. And I went, well, and nope, we were at the place. I'd never been on that block in Manhattan before. It was like 38th Street and Madison Avenue, something, a place I didn't know, Park, Madison. But it was a building with a big white front on the first floor. And there was a door. And I thought to go in, and I thought, but it's like 6:30 now. People have probably all gone home from work. But I thought, this is where Baba brought me. So I went up. I said, the door will probably be locked, but it was open. So I walked in. I walked down the hall. There was only one person still there behind a desk way at the end of the hall on the left. And I looked in. He said, can I help you? I said, yeah. What is this place? He said, it's the American Academy of Dramatic Arts, where you go to learn to be an actor. American Academy of Dramatic Arts. Do you want to audition? I didn't think I was an actor, but Baba led me there. So how could I say no? I said, okay. And he said, okay, take this booklet. And there's a scene on each page. It was a little booklet. Go in that room, sit down, there's a bench, pick a scene that you like. And when you're ready, I'll hear you, come back and I'll hear you audition. He said I didn't have to memorize it. I just had to feel comfortable reading it. So I came back in. I read that scene. He looked at me, kind of surprised. He said, that was pretty good. You're accepted. And he gave me all this information to student aid and everything else. And just at that point, the next day, or that was Friday. So on Monday, when I went to work, I learned that they were keeping me on at the UN. And that was also something Baba had set up. But that meant I couldn't go to the school because I had to work days and nights, and sometimes days and nights. And I didn't know how to follow Baba's guidance on this. And also, frankly, I was very insecure about being an actor. But 20 years passed, and my life at the UN was becoming more and more uncomfortable. And I happened to say, Baba, what do you want me to do with my life? This can't be what you want. What do you want? And it was as if Baba said to me, didn't we already talk about this? and I remembered. And so for a year, I thought I should audition. I should try to act in a play. But I was so scared that it took me a year to psych myself up, to have the courage to go somewhere and do a scene. And finally, at some open mic thing, I went in, I put a scene together from one of my favorite movies. I did the scene, and everybody, they were blown away by how good it was. They were all professional actors, and they came over asking me what movies I'd been in, what plays I'd been in, and I had never acted before. So I started doing this a lot more. Now, this is just prelude to the part about letting Baba work through you. In 2010, so 10 years ago, 12 years ago, I was in a play, off-Broadway play. And it was a role where I got to be in the scenes. I got to talk to the audience. I got to sit with the audience. And basically to make them feel comfortable with this kind of scary story. It was the Phantom of the Opera, but a different, not the one that's on Broadway. And I was the author and the investigator in that story. Each day I was so scared. First, I would say Baba's name before I studied my part. But when it came right to go on stage, I was so scared. I would get a private place if I could, close my eyes. I would say Baba's prayers inwardly, and I would say, Baba, you act through me. You do play this role through me. And Baba had guided actors in the 30s who would come to him. He said, just think, I can and will express this part thoroughly. So I used to do that and things like that. Well, when I got on stage, something happened. And the second week we were on, and people were coming up to me and all that, but that's usually it happens with plays. But on the second week, someone came up to me after the play and said, you know, we were here last week and we just felt so much love pouring from you. And something has been going on in my life that was really bad. And because of your performance, we were able to change something, and now everything's okay. And we are so grateful to you for spreading so much love through this performance. I had no idea what they were talking about, but I did know that I had put it in Baba's hands and asked Baba to help me. He also said to this actor, he said, just before you go on, say, I'm the greatest actor in the world. And he said, what's the harm if it's not for ego, but if it's just to make you perform the part well? So I would say that, and he told one actor, say, I can and will express this part thoroughly, and I would do that, and I would also always say the prayer, especially if I was sitting on stage in the beginning before the curtain went up, in the dark, you know. So Baba did a lot of work through that. I mean, people would come up to me a year later in different boroughs of the city who had seen this play and and addressed me as if I was the character. Not even that I was an actor, but they so believe. So Baba did work through that. And at the UN, so many stories where Baba clearly did work through my remembering him there. I didn't do Baba work, but Baba definitely did work. Some of it having to do with the breakdown of the Soviet Union, some with the Palestinians, some with a lot of different things. I met many people there too. So, but I didn't do anything. All I did, remember Baba and surrender to Baba and trust Baba. And Baba does any Baba work. Baba said, I alone do my work. You can help. And how do you help? By being good at what you do, by, preparing, and by surrendering to me, trusting, like Meher was saying. He didn't mention me, say Baba talked through me. It's trusting. Before I came here today, I said, Baba, I trust you. I don't know what I'm going to do when I get here today. I trust you. So
I really love that. Thank you so much, Tony, for that, because it also tells me that he put you in a place where you had no idea, and you started a new journey, right? Like, did you ever consider acting before that?
No, but I did love it. I mean, I remember the school.
Right. I mean, we have our
grade.
talents, but this goes back to my son and I were having this conversation today, where I think this is where I always feel like a friend of mine told me her daughter learns piano, and the piano teacher apparently has beautiful paintings all over. And so she said, yeah, I guess, she's in her 50s, 60s or something. She goes, I didn't even know I could paint till I was in my 50s. I just tried it one day. And then I realized I'm good at it, So I think there's no age limit or anything like that to find something new. And it's always nice to try things, even if you might not think you like it, but who knows, maybe you'll like it, right? So.
And Baba has such patience. So he knew when he gave me that very clear guidance that there were other things I needed to do first, and I wouldn't be ready for that, but he planted that. So it didn't matter if I didn't think I had the talent, or I wasn't a good actor. How could I be an actor? Or I'm too shy about going on. Baba said this. He planted the seed, and he knew it would take 20 years for me to act on it. But
can I ask one other thing? So you said Baba, so how do you, obviously he talks to all of us, right? But how do you feel him? For me, sometimes I just feel him talking through me in my head or through my heart, if I really ask him. But because that's another thing I've heard, how do I let Baba talk to me, So
yeah,
if we can maybe share that.
Sometimes, like with this story with Klemke Diddlehopper, Baba has to be hit me over the head, like there's a joke about hitting the mule over the head with a 2x4 to get his attention. So Baba sometimes has let me, why I have some good stories is because he had to be really dramatic in letting me know his hand had written it. So when that happens, well, I know clearly Baba I said, how do you want me to do with my life? And he brought me to an acting school. But mostly, I think it depends on having a daily quiet time with Baba. For me, taking time quietly to be with Baba, to remember Baba, and it could take any different form, but just ideally close your eyes and sit and just remember him, maybe take his name. I like doing one thing that Don Stevens recommended a lot is when there's no one else around, to talk out loud to Baba about what's going on in your life. And then not expecting to hear an answer in your ears or even but sometimes an idea will come and you kind of sense that it's Baba's response because it feels right. It feels good. But it's more about trusting him. Mm-hmm. It's more about if you give him the time, his presence will make itself felt. Again, I remember something Harry Kenmore said. He was talking about connecting with Baba and opening to your real self and all this wondrous stuff. He said, but of course you have to give time to it. He said, if you don't give time to it, absolutely nothing will happen. So you have to give time to Baba. And so for me, that means trying to remember him all the time. But the main thing is that quiet time with Baba. and whatever shape. And sometimes it can be while you're writing. For a long time, I wrote every day for half an hour, not for anyone else to read, just like journal type writing, but writing to let Baba, and Baba would come through in the writing sometimes. There's one piece I've read as poetry, I don't have it today, where Baba clearly was speaking through me while I was writing, to me. But usually it's not that dramatic. It's quiet. Like Baba said, things that are real are given and received in silence. But you have to give time. If you give time to Baba, it becomes easier to hear what he wants you to do, how he guides you. And I'm still working on one of these things, like the story that I talked about. I'm writing a 12-episode show of my story. Again, I just said, Baba, I really just want to turn this over to you, because I have so many. I could do it this way. I could do it that way. If you want this, I really want it. I didn't even say I turn it over to you, because I can't. Sometimes you could say it, but you know you don't mean it. So I said, Baba, I really want to turn this over to you. So help me so that I can turn this over to you and let you guide me in how this is going to get written. You know, if I'm going to write it, and if so, how, what, because he gives me little touches of what needs to be in it, but I can't do that. It's like any Baba work. I can turn it over to him and he'll do it. He'll do it through me. He'll let it happen through me. So.
Yeah. You guys have any questions? It's beautiful. Anybody want to share anything? Awesome. So, did you want to say something? Okay. Sahana, do you want to turn on your camera so we can see you? Sorry, go ahead. Tony.
Anybody, as far as I'm concerned, because I'm sharing, so you might or might not want to say something, because anything you want to say, I'd really be happy to hear. Because I just want to know what's in your heart, if at all any of this touches you, and if not, that too.
Yeah, I think we should definitely go around. Shireen Meher, we'll start with you, because it's this is how we talk and get to know one another.
Yeah.
So tell us what's in your heart right now.
Yeah, I was really like amused by your stories. I loved
Yes.
it. So it was very heart touching.
Yes.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah.
That means a lot to me. I just want to say that as a performer, when you go on stage or you sing a song, you get response from audiences, but I find among Baba people, there's a reluctance to say, I really liked that, or it made me feel happy. And if you're sharing something, it's really important to know that, because then okay, I got it right. And if not, you'll go, okay, Baba, where did I mess up with this? So thank you so much. Thank you so much.
Who wants to go next? Trinity?
Sure. These stories were really nice. They weren't boring. But yeah, I'm not bored by stories unless it's my dad telling them. But
Poor dad.
Or good dad, that's what I was thinking. But honesty counts.
She's a tough critic. So Srinidhi, what do you think about what Tony just shared, right? Like taking Baba and everything and talking to him. I mean, like I also hear, like Tony, when I guess Don Stevens, and I can share a picture as to who he was, but he was with Baba for several years, and he was an American guy from California, right?
Yes, and Baba said he was in his circle. He was close, very close to Baba.
Right. So I think I heard someone say he used to talk to Baba every night, because I think a long time ago, I think when his mom had passed away or sick or something like that, he didn't share. And then Baba said to him, why didn't you tell me? And he goes, well, I thought you knew everything. And he goes, it doesn't matter if I know everything, but you need to tell me. So every day from then on, even though he was in America and Baba in India, he would go and have this whole thing. Okay, Baba, I did this morning. I did that this morning. Like, it was like a whole account of the whole day. And, so I thought that was really interesting that that he would do that. But
it's a very powerful and helpful thing. Sometimes, and this happened to me like last week, you don't know, you're upset about something's not right, you're feeling bothered, or you're not doing the things you want to do and you don't know why, and I even had trouble talking to Bob that particular day. And I said, Baba, I'm having trouble. What is it? What's going on? What am I upset about? What is troubling me? And it just immediately hit me. I'm not going to share because it is something personal, but it was something that I was trying to pretend was not a problem that's really upset me very much. And it's a difficult thing. And we have some difficult things in life, but it's always better to know what you're feeling and why than to suppress your feeling and not know what, because your feelings tell you what matters to you. They're as close to your center as you can get, closer than your mind can get. Your ideas can always be crazy. Your feelings are always honest, even when they're bad, not nice feelings.
That's so true, because so let's go around, right? And this is where I think this will be a great sharing. Do you guys feel that way? When if something is upsetting you, but you don't know what it is, right? And sometimes your mood is off. Does that happen to you guys? Sahana, does that happen to you? Since you haven't spoken, I want to give you the turn first.
Okay.
Can you turn on your camera so we can see your pretty face?
Okay, wait.
Okay. I'm waiting.
There's something wrong, and plus, the charger is like, I need to charge it. So.
Okay. So tell me. Let's go back to the question. Does that happen to you? If you do get sometimes you're just off, but you don't know what it is.
Yeah, I get that a lot.
So what do we do then? Does what Tony told you help? Like, if you talk to Baba, we still can't see your face.
I mean, sometimes I talk to Baba, but not all the time. Like, not all the time, yeah.
No.
Maybe we should start that. Maybe that's something we can start doing, from now on. Yeah?
Okay.
But I would say there's no one thing. So even, like I say, if I do that quiet time, sometimes I'll talk to Baba out loud. Sometimes I'll take his name. Sometimes I'll just say, I'm bowing down at your samadhi. I'm bowing down, or I'm holding your hand. Or sometimes I'm just going to sit here in your presence. You don't have to talk. It's the mind that talks, except when it comes from the heart. So you're just going to know that it feels right, for you. And as an Aquarian, that's especially important, that you know that it feels right for you. Not because someone else says to do something, Yeah. But it's for everyone.
You can definitely relate to that.
Yeah, go ahead. Why don't you tell us?
About who, Sahana?
No, about yourself.
I'm not an Aquarian.
Oh.
But you're a person.
But you're a person, yeah. So when something's bothering you, especially, sometimes we know exactly what it is. Sometimes we don't. What do you do? Because see, when we talk like this, I take, if this works for someone, let me try. That's the kind of person I am. So what works for you, Soham?
Kind of going my own way.
What do you mean by that?
I don't think I need to be the same as everyone else, really.
No, but I'm saying what helps you. Like if you don't know what it is, but then you want to find out what it is, what do you do to get there?
I guess I look it up on Google.
All right. That's important too.
So
do I.
I didn't know if okay, I'm gonna search for my feelings.
No, but the question's kind of vague. Like I don't know how to answer.
So the topic is if you're upset about something and you don't know what it is, how do you deal with it, right? Like say something is just bothering you.
Oh, okay. I didn't know it was like that. I guess I just try to cope with it. I just try to keep quiet. You know, I might just go do something to distract myself or walk away from it. And then once everything's settled down, I go back to it. I
Huh,
guess.
Okay.
huh. As long as you go back to it.
Yeah.
Right.
It's the danger is if, because I do that, I kind of tough it out, you know.
Mhm.
But if you don't go back to it, then it can undermine you from inside,
Yeah.
you know. Yeah.
Yeah. And I don't like that feeling, so I always go back to it.
Good, good, good.
And then do you talk to Baba, or what do you do?
No, not really. Only I keep a lot of it to myself, you know.
So one thing I realized, and I did this, like as a kid, I used to write. We didn't have a lot of TV back then. I mean, we did, but we weren't allowed to watch it. So we didn't have so many channels, right? But so I would just write in this journal, and it wouldn't be every night, but it would be once in a while and stuff. And I really did feel like Meher or Shireen said, like sometimes just something would come through me. And this is even before I really knew of Baba. It's I'd be like, oh, or sometimes I'd ask Baba a question and I'd get the answer, type of thing. And I'd stopped over the years because who has the time to sit down and write? But recently, I did this Shadows to Light with Mehervina, and she asked you to journal, and I did that. And I'm like, I'm not the kind of person who journals, but I tried. And I remember there's some, we have some kind of, not, I wouldn't say anxiety, but there's something that was inside that I just couldn't pinpoint. It was just bothersome. And one day I just decided to write, and I just started writing about, okay, what I was feeling. And then I realized what was causing that emotion. And I forgot how powerful writing is, when you're just, your thoughts flow, and then all of a sudden you have an answer that you don't know what's bothering you. So I said, oh, I felt so much better once I knew what was bothering me. So it does work.
I once took some courses in something called Ericksonian hypnosis. And he was a psychologist who was able to do these wondrous cures, and he used hypnosis, but it was just he would suggest to the person that the answer was within them, basically. And the way the people who follow this kind of school, the way they talk about the unconscious mind, I could just substitute Baba, because your unconscious mind, in all of us, there's a part of your mind that you're not even aware of. That's why they say unconscious. And it's like an iceberg, like Baba says, the ego is like the 10% that's on the surface, and underneath is this 90% that you don't see. And so when they say, for instance, ask your unconscious mind what it is that's troubling you. If you're uncomfortable thinking as if you're asking Baba, the person, because the unconscious on that level is Baba. When you ask Baba's guide, when you ask the guidance from the real self within, that's who Baba is, the real self within. So it doesn't have to be, it doesn't have to be any particular way of doing that, as long as you're remaining in touch with your innermost being, because Baba is your innermost being, even if you didn't know his name. Even if you'd never heard of him, Baba is still your innermost being. So if you feel more comfortable asking your innermost being, that's the way you're asking Baba. Everyone will have their own way to connect, and they're all good. They're all good.
How about anybody else wants to share? Srinidhi, Shrinika, Meher shaking his head no. Or Shireen, anyone else? It kind of reminds me of the story. I think I just read it with Mani, who, her father, Sharia, was didn't really go to school. I think was pretty much illiterate, right? But she, growing up, would see him speak with somebody in Jewish and Hebrew and in Persian and in Arabic, and he'd be quoting Hafez and Rumi. And then she was confused. She said, well, how did my father get to know all these things? So she asked Baba once, like, I guess, and she goes, but he never went to school. How does he know all these things, right? And that's when Baba said, the knowledge is within. It just takes that moment for it to open up, right? And so I try to keep that in mind, because especially sometimes, when I'm at work, or if I don't know an answer and I'm kind of getting a little worried, or I'm like, okay, what's the right thing to do? Because you have to make a decision. I have to kind of separate that stress from, okay, Baba, what is it? How am I going to go about this, doing this? And sure enough, he will come and give you an answer. You just have to trust that it is. Right, Meher? That's what you do on your exams, right? On your tests? Awesome.
Also, there's another piece with this, that it's important to at least mention it, that it's always important that you keep in mind to do the right thing. So I find that really helpful. Like in a situation where something comes up and you're not sure what to do, just to remember, whatever it is, do the right thing. Whatever it is that Baba wants you to do is the right thing. It's not going to be something that's going to hurt someone. It's not, but you can't always figure out, but your inside has an instinct. Is this the right thing or the wrong thing to do? And I find you can get a pretty good answer. You may not get the complete thing, but for each step, you get the answer. But life's a challenge. I mean, life is fun, life is joyous, life is entertaining, life is difficult, but it's a challenge. It's an adventure. It's like you kind of always having to work at it. And the fun is in the journey, but sometimes the journey isn't fun, But it all works out to bring you closer and closer to your own wholeness. When you're coming closer to Baba, he's bringing you closer to your own wholeness. And so you'll discover so much about yourself. I'm still discovering every single day.
Right. I have one question for you, Tony. Since it was Bauji's birthday, recently, do you have any story to share about Bauji with the kids?
Yes. Let me see. I took notes because I was afraid to forget everything, but I wrote a poem. Oh, it wouldn't be appropriate. It would be too long and boring to do here. But if you check online, I shared it in a number of places. Now, Bauji, among other things, he had he had an amazing mind. He wrote all of those volumes of Lord Mayher and a constant stream of work that he did. But he also had like what I call the wine-drenched heart. And because there was so much love of Baba that poured through him. And he was, in my experience, was a little peculiar, but not in a bad way. He had a very odd sense of humor. And over the years, I was astonished to learn what his sense of humor was getting at. So the first time I noticed that, although I'd met him when I was like 20, but this was later on, and I had been in that group with that bad person, and I had finally gotten out, and it was my first chance to go back to India, and I was so happy to be there. And we were at a place called Sarosh Canteen near the trust office, where people used to hang out to have some soda or just to relax. And Bauji showed up. And I was so happy to see Baba's Mandali Bao. I didn't really know him, but I knew who he was. And he looks at me and he says, "Be careful." And I went, "Huh?" He said, "Be careful." This is creepy. It wasn't creepy because Baba's Mandali never felt creepy, but there he is with that look. Be careful. And no matter how many times I asked him, he would just repeat it. And then the next day, the same thing happened. And the next day, the same thing happened. And then it turned out, and it's very serious. And then it turned out that group, it was around Amartithi time. And the remaining members of that group, including that bad person who was done me a lot of harm, they come for Amartithi, and I knew they were coming, but I had the opportunity to be with Baba in Mehrabad. The heck with them. I was happy to be there. But here we are again, and Bauji shows up, and someone mentions, oh, that New York group is coming. They're just arriving now. And Bauji looked at me and he said, be careful. And then he couldn't help but smile. He said, she's coming. So all the time I was trying to tough it out. I was trying to not know what I was feeling, push aside. Yes, I'm nervous. I'm a little bit afraid of having to deal with them. I'm leaving. I'll give it to Baba, but I don't want to think about it. All along, he had picked that up. And by making this scary thing, and then it breaks open into this little joke, like he was just playing with me, it let me see my own fear and at the same time to laugh at it. And I found that sort of thing, Bauji did a lot with me. There's another story. The UN sent me to Madrid to cover a conference, a 1-week conference of the Palestinian Committee. And that's all expenses paid back and forth. And I managed to take my return flight through the Italian airline, and my stopover was in Italy. And I had vacation time, so I wound up joining Bao for a 1-week visit he was paying to Assisi, where St. Francis lived. And at one point, we were all at the central square in Assisi, and I was a little bit upset because someone who lived, some Baba lover who lived in Assisi and owned a restaurant, had invited Bao for a private little lunch together with them at their restaurant. And here was precious time for this. A lot of people had come to be with Bao, and they're taking him off just to go, why not invite everybody so we could all be with Bao every precious moment? But that's what it was. And I just said, okay, fine. And I squelched my own feelings about it. I pretended I wasn't mad. And we're in the central square, and it was a beautiful day, and there was an Italian ice cream vendor there. And I went over and I had some ice cream, and it was really good. And suddenly we turned around the other end of the square where Bao had disappeared to go off to this restaurant. Suddenly, 5-10 minutes later, Baoji is coming back out with the people who went with him. The restaurant was closed. Whatever it was, it didn't happen. Doesn't seem like a big deal, right? For years after that, whenever I saw Baoji in India, but especially whenever he was here in New York or in this Northeast or even at the center, public or in Baba meetings, or like one was at Fordham University, he would, or in the Sufi mosque, he would turn to me and he says, now you see this man over here, he really likes ice cream. He likes talking about me. He likes ice cream so much that we were in Assisi together and it was so cold. It wasn't cold. It was so cold. And still he had to have this ice cream because he loves ice cream so much. And he would elaborate every time I saw him, like I said, in Fordham, a big audience of the public. I'm sitting with my wife in the middle. He says, you see this fellow over here? He goes through it again. And every time. And I just tried to be tolerant. I enjoyed the attention. But finally, at that time at Fordham University, after he did that, I said inside, I said, Baba, what is this all about? And I have found whenever I ask Baba that question, I get the answer. Whenever, I don't know if it works for everyone, but in my experience, when I remember just to ask Baba, instead of thinking, I know, I said, what is this all about? And immediately it hit me. When Baoji went in there to have that dinner in Assisi, that lunch at that restaurant in Assisi, I was blocking my thoughts and feelings, but in looking back, I could see I was resentful, I was angry, I was judging those people for being bad Baba lovers, for taking him all by themselves and not thinking of everybody else. And I was full of all this resentment. And how did I get my mind off of that and pretend I was not having those bad feelings and thoughts? I went and had an ice cream. And I distracted myself by having an ice cream. And that ice cream tasted delicious because I didn't have to feel all those bad feelings, you know. All along, Bauji had, I'm sure the instant he came out, even before, he knew what was going on in me. He could see it. You know how we can tell things when we have a certain knowledge? And for all these years, he was just waiting for me to realize that that joke was about, no, that's why you had the ice cream, but what were you really feeling then? And suddenly, a big part of me was free. That had been locked up for years and I didn't know it. And I'll give one more example of that kind of thing. Very similar. Alaba, Baba's disciple Alaba, was in New York. And there was a fellow who had a restaurant, and then again, a restaurant. And we were all going to meet with Alaba at this restaurant on like 23rd Street and 7th Avenue, something like that. And I took off from work, and a lot of people took off from work, and we get there, and what a thrill. It's an intimate little place. And we all eating, obviously Bao's not talking while he's eating, you know, but Bao finishes eating, we all finish eating. The thing is about to start, the time with Baoji, and someone there, a Baba lover, said, Bao, would you like me to take you on a tour of the city? And Bao said, okay. And she had a little Volkswagen Bug or Beetle, some small car. She went out with Baoji, they got in the car and they left. So all of us who had come to spend, not Bao, Alaba, all of us who had come to spend time with Alaba were left just sitting there. So I decided, okay, I'm gonna go home. My wife at the time was there. No. I'm not sure when it was that this happened now. But anyway, we got in the car. We got in the car to drive home. And I'm just suppressing. I'm really angry again, but I'm suppressing it, not letting myself know. I don't want to feel these feelings. They're bad feelings. I don't want to be judging anyone. So we get in the car, and right at that corner, I have to go across town, and halfway up the block, we're stopped. One of those big semis, those big trucks, like 18-wheelers or something like that, was blocking our way, was trying to park. And I'm watching it, and all of a sudden, now please don't get scared. I'm sitting here in the driver's seat, and this is the windshield. All of a sudden, someone appears with his face pressed against my windshield. Don't get scared. Doing this. Ah! 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 And I, pop. And then he disappeared. And the truck cleared out, and we were able to drive again. And this time it didn't take me long to ask Baba, what was all that about? What was that about? And instantly, now, you know, of course, Baba's nazar, his glance is on all of his intimate mandali, especially wherever they go, Baba is present with them. His eye is very much, including Alaba. And when I asked Baba, what was that all about? He was showing me what was going on inside of me that I was repressing and pretending wasn't there. He was showing me, to that crazy guy, all the anger and rage and I was feeling towards this woman who had taken Alaba away in his car. It's a big gift. And I don't know if I'm the only one, but a lot of people, especially guys, tend to repress or hide from their emotions, especially when you're younger, but I wasn't that young, you know. I'm still learning, but I'm getting better at being open. That's one thing that helps you not hide from yourself, I find, is being open with other people about what you're feeling or what you're thinking in an appropriate way, you know. But so I don't know how that happened. I prepared, but I felt, I see Baba had his own plans for where this conversation was going to go. Does this story connect with anyone?
Yeah. I mean, I think it's amazing how every time, right? Even something that happened 10 years ago was brought up and made you realize that, yeah. Hey.
Well, it was clearly intentional on Mbauji's part. Yes, it's Baba, but it was, you know, and I told last week how Kenmore did that quite often. He'd look right at you and talk about, I'm worrying about something all week, and in the middle of the meeting, his eyes just roaming like a blind man's would suddenly fix up, which he was, his eyes would fix on me and he would respond to that thing I was going through. and resolve it for the moment. But Baba, if you read the book, there's a new book on Padre. It's not just that it seems like Baba is speaking to that person. Sometimes Baba is speaking to that Mandali member. He revealed that, and it's in the Padre book, that their intimacy is so close that they allow him to come through them without ever displacing them. Yeah.
Yeah, what do you guys think? I mean, we're almost close to the hour, so I think this is a great way to, conclude and share your thoughts on all of these amazing stories that, Tony has been sharing. Does that happen to you guys at all? Like if you're feeling something and somebody will come and say, hey, and then it kind of touches upon that? No? Sahana? Sahana, no?
To be fair, you may one day see a movie called Forrest Gump.
Yeah.
And Forrest Gump wound up in these most amazing situations and in world events and so on. And in many ways, I feel Baba has turned me into Forrest Gump. So these are not the kind of things that happen to a lot of people.
Yeah.
But the lesson,
we saw that movie.
Yeah.
Recently, we saw that movie. Yes.
Yeah, but the lesson is still good. It's like Baba gave me something to share that has an important lesson to it. So it's not just that he was entertaining me.
Yeah. I would like everyone to share something real quick before we conclude for today. And Tony, I really, truly appreciate you being here for the last, 2 sessions and sharing. I've enjoyed it thoroughly.
I love you guys, and I'm so happy both of these weeks, especially this one, especially because it's a little bit smaller and more intimate.
Yeah.
And I feel I know you a little bit since last week. So
yeah,
we get
so you're welcome anytime to come back and share all of your.
I can monopolize when I'm the guest speaker. I can't do this. I have to learn to, in most venues, to keep my stories mostly to myself.
No, but what about that? Like Shireen, this is the first time you're meeting Tony. So how did you enjoy his stories and interaction?
Yeah, I love his stories. They're so like amusing and like it's like really like nice to hear your connection like with Baba and everything, like all your experiences. It was amazing.
So Shireen she's in higher grades, so sometimes it's very tough for her to make it. So I'm really, really happy you're here because I know you're probably getting a lot of homework and tests and exams, right? So thank you so much.
Yeah,
I just want, sorry.
Yeah, I'm glad to be here. Yeah.
I'm just happy, Shilpa, that you're here, because I've got about 14 pages of notes here and didn't touch on most of it because of the way you promote the flow of things here and get people to share, and that's what we're all sharing with each other, which is so much better than having one person just come up and look at all the stories I've got here.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's fun when we interact. This is a shy group sometimes, but not always. So sometimes they're very quick to raise hands and ask questions, but I think they are just absorbing, like me. So, what about Trinity? You guys, what was your favorite part? I guess I should ask.
Well, last week, the story that Tony said, it was it was the story about how he met Baba, I guess. That was my favorite part.
Yeah, it's a good story. And you only got the outlines of it.
Yeah. We're going to wait for your movie.
Baba, I'm really wanting to turn this completely over to Baba, because it has to be done the way it'll be done if I've given it to Baba. So
absolutely. Thank you, Srinidhi and Shireen. Excuse me, Meher, Soham, Sahana, anything to share before we turn it over to Effort and Grace?
No.
I don't really have anything to share now.
Sorry.
So are you a Capricorn?
Who, Soham?
Yeah. Huh?
I'm not sure.
Okay.
Soham's Sagittarius.
He was born on November 28th, so.
He's Sagittarius.
Oh, cool. Okay. See, that's why I don't do this anymore. I used to be 90% right. Now I'm like 90% wrong. But I know how to read a chart.
But no, we thank you for being here. And guys, we also have another, speaker next week. So I hope everyone can make it. And Tony, if you want to just come listen, you're more than welcome to.
Who's the speaker next?
I'm trying to get Alan Cohen to come.
Woo!
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes.
Alan's fun.
Yeah. So I'm excited. I think these guys are, old enough now to learn more about, all the messages that Baba gave to Alan, right?
Mm-hmm.
So yeah. But I'm going to stop recording. So thank you so much, everyone, for coming. And,